we're measuring the wrong things because we're not seeing the changes in the world. So 4 drivers, there are many others, but just for our sake today, 4 things to make the point that we are moving to a connection economy. The first and obvious is technology, and particularly our ability to have the most remarkable amount of computing power in the palm of our hands. So it's the size, it's the price, it's the speed and power and connectivity of these little devices. And most of us are hooked to these things. More than 75% of you in this room will check this device once an hour, every waking hour of your life. If you left it at home this morning, you would have turned around and gone back for it. There are lots of things you would leave at home. Maybe even socks and a belt. But not your phone. Not anymore. Not today. These devices have changed our lives in fundamental ways. Just 2 illustrations of this. The first one was these 2 remarkable photographs. Talk about a new world. Who thought popes could retire? But we've had one. So 8 years ago, a whole lot of people waiting in St. Peter's Square for the announcements of a new pope, and there's a few candles ready to be lit. And then earlier this year, there's the picture. Those are not candles. Those are all smartphones or tablet devices. That's our world. And those of you who've been to the big concerts that have been around recently, especially Bon Jovi, it's this number these days. Eh? Everybody put your phones in the air. This is the world. Now, I had a slightly more personal encounter with this recently. I've lived in London for the last 5 years before moving back to Johannesburg earlier this year. And in London with Amazon, you've got remarkable specials every now and again. And about 2 years ago, they had remarkable specials on most of the 1980s movies. They took the top 200 movies from the 1980s and they were selling them at about £1 each. So my wife and I, in a fit of craziness, went and bought a whole pile of them. And we thought we'd introduce my 3 daughters to these movies. Now, I've got 3 daughters, 14, 11, and 8. I said we should give them names, but my wife said, it's the digital age. Anyway, so we thought we'd introduce them to our memories. So there we go, you know, there's a selection of them. Those are some of my favorites. And off we go. We start showing these movies. And I really thought my daughters would get into them. But my daughters just stared at these movies. Just, huh? And eventually I just said, these are great movies. What's the problem? And we were watching Home Alone, I think, and one of my daughters just says, why doesn't anybody just phone? Pretty much every single plot of every one of those movies and every single Magnum PI episode you can imagine. He's driving up and down Honolulu in his red Ferrari. Just phone. Solve all your problems. Sad. Times move too quickly, don't they? But here we are. We live in this digital world, and much more seriously, this digital world of always on, always connected, where all of your information is always available all of the time, where everybody knows everything, where you can have competitors sitting up on the stage because they can't hide everything from each other. Nobody can hide anything anymore. Everybody knows all of this. None of your clients need you to give them information unless they're lazy or stupid. Now, you do have many lazy and stupid clients, and that's good news for at least the next 10 years. But after that, what happens? What happens when you engage with a younger generation who have all of the information that you have traditionally supplied, that's been your job for most of your careers, and it's all just out there? And we live in this digital world, and more than just being out there, they can get competitive advice, better advice than what they can get from you. See, the problem is that we're living in a world right now where we are trying to take computers and get computers to help us to do all the things we've already been doing, but just do it cheaper, better, and faster. That's pretty much what most of you are using computers for. And that's the information age. I'm suggesting to you today that something else is going on in our world right now, and that we are shifting to a world beyond information, to this connected age. Let me give you just one example of what I mean. This is Sebastian Thrun. When Sebastian was 18 years old, he was involved in a horrific motor car accident. His best friend who was driving the car was killed. This hugely, obviously, impacted Sebastian. And he decided then as a young man that he would commit as much as he could of his life to solving the problem of driver-related motor car accidents. He discovered through research that about 1.2 million people are killed every year through driver-related motor vehicle accidents around the world. And that number, 1.2 million, is in big bold letters above his desk. Sebastian is lucky enough to work for Google. And Google gives certain members of their staff 20% discretionary time, 1 day a week, to work on any project they want to. And Sebastian has spent the last 5 years spending 1 day every week creating driverless cars. He's the inventor of driverless cars, and the kit that Google hope within 5 years will cost you less than $500. That'll only be about 78,000 Rand by then. But hopefully we can get some imported at a cheap rate somewhere. Hopefully through Zimbabwe. It'll sort itself out. Anyway. But driverless cars are basically a kit that you put onto any car. Basically, because we now have computing power that's small enough and cheap enough and powerful enough, you can put video cameras all around a car, you can put a sensor on the roof, and this car can drive itself. Now, conceptually, you should be okay with driverless cars, as it's not a big leap from where your car is. Your car's filled with computers. If you've got an automatic car, it's just 2 pedals and a wheel. Your car knows where it should go anyway. It's got a GPS device in it. So you understand, if you were the only car on the road, you'd be fine. Driverless cars are easy. It's the other people that are the problem. So we've had to, this is what the driverless car concept does. If you step out in front of this car, it will see you and it will slam on brakes. If it starts raining, it will change its driving patterns. Unless it's in Johannesburg, because then if it rains, you just keep driving like an idiot. Now, driverless cars have been in operation for nearly 3 years already, but what you might not know is that in October last year, California gave that car a license. It is legal in Los Angeles. It is legal in San Francisco. You can fly into LAX International Airport tomorrow morning. You can land, you can pick up your luggage, get through passport control, and as you walk outside the airport, you can either go to a normal taxi rank or you can get into one of Google's driverless cars. Type in the name of your hotel, and in a car with no driver, you can be taken through the rush hour streets of downtown Los Angeles tomorrow morning. It is also legal in Arizona. It is also legal in Nevada. By the end of this year, another 10 states are scheduled to have given it a license. It won't be long before they are legal here in South Africa. But now the point of my story. By 2025, I believe that the Sandton CBD will not only make driverless cars legal, they will also make them compulsory. And here is why. If every single car in downtown Sandton is driverless without exception, then every car can speak to every other car, and all the cars can tell each other what they're all trying to achieve right now, and they can create temporary traffic patterns just for the next hour or two. William Nicol can be 8 lanes north for 2 hours, except for the 1 lane, the 3rd lane in, because we've got 6 cars trying to get in. Just let them through. It's going to happen. Within the next 10 or 15 years, we're going to have motorways and highways and city centers that are driverless compulsory. And when that happens, we can do things with traffic, we can do things with our cars that you could never do. This is the mindset shift I'm trying to get you to see. It's not just about helping you to do things that you used to do, like looking in the Johannesburg street map index that we all used to have under the seat. to find where you're supposed to go. Now we've got a computer that tells you step by step. That's just doing what we used to do, but doing it cheaper, better, and faster with computers. If we create a system of compulsory driverless cars, we get to do things we can't do. That's the point we've reached in history. We have machines that are becoming more powerful than we are. And we have to decide whether we want to unleash that power or not. You have to decide whether you will unleash that power in your business. How are you interrogating the data in your business? Simple example, Blockbuster Videos, an American brand that's recently gone bankrupt, but here in South Africa we had a number of branches. Blockbuster or something else. How many of you have ever had a video contract at a video store? It's pretty much everybody. I know you're over 35 now, but pretty much all the older guys in the room, you've all had one, right? Me too, and women, of course. Now, how many of you ever got a letter from your video store saying, I see you've watched the following 5 movies. People who have watched these 5 movies also liked these other ones. Not once. There is a company called Netflix. We don't have access to it yet in South Africa here. But Netflix does precisely that. It allows you to stream DVDs online or movies online and then gives you suggestions about what you might do with that. They've simply taken the data that Blockbuster used to have and they've done something with it. Blockbuster are bankrupt. Netflix have eaten their lunch. But Blockbuster should have had no competition because they've known every single video you've ever rented. They knew the day you rented it, how long you had it for. They knew what you did with it. And they did nothing with that data. How much data have you got in your businesses that you are doing nothing with? Because you don't have the computing ability, you don't have the computing wherewithal to be able to process large amounts of data. Big data is just one of the themes that comes out of this. But the question is, what's your driverless car? What's the thing in your business that could be unlocked by using computers to create connections you've never had before? By opening up relationships, connecting with others, moving into the social space, using social media, accessing big data. What could you do if you knew everything? There's a little device in your pocket that knows everything. Everything. So what are you going to do? You can't just keep doing what you used to do. You can't even do what you used to do, but just do it better. This is a new world. What's your driverless car?